I'm just saying if you want to do away, I'm just saying you want to do away with it, do away with it. Just don't act like, don't forget what brought it about. Right. That's all I'm saying.
And it's where people look for talent. If you look at these tech companies, they go to Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley. You think they're going to the HBCUs and looking for talent there? If they're not pushed to go outside their networks, they're going to hire the same people from the same schools and replicate the same wealth gap. We've got a 10-to-1 wealth gap in America, and instead of talking about that, we're beating up on DEI.
But we had this in your industry, or the way you represent, women were like, they started 2 programs, big programs, like 20 years ago to get more women in engineering positions. And I think in 20 years it went up 1%. I don't think it's because they were barred from doing it. I just think people choose to go into different avenues of...
Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith teamed up to deliver some hard-hitting critiques of the left-woke DEI agenda. Though they come from similar political backgrounds, both now see serious flaws within their own side, and they've tried sounding the alarm, only to be ignored. In a heated episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the two dismantled popular DEI talking points, sending ripples through the political landscape. Buckle up, this one gets intense.
The complaint that I have over this whole DEI issue is that everybody thinks about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it automatically connotates in a lot of people's eyes, particularly on the right, that somebody that's in that position must have gotten there because of a level of incompetence and what have you. It's not merit-based. My attitude is similar to the Rooney Rule with the National Football League, similar with affirmative action. What the hell was the policy necessary for to begin with? Because we had a power structure in the United States of America that was unfair, that was inequitable. They didn't give a damn, and somebody had to compel them to do the right thing conscientiously, and nobody is talking about that in regards to DEI.
Well, I think they are. But also things change.
Right.
But
You're talking about the past.
But they haven't changed enough. Look at tech. Look at how many African Americans, Latino Americans are in tech, which is producing out all the wealth.
But is it because they're barred?
Maher raises a sharp and uncomfortable question. Are certain groups underrepresented in baseball because they're being pushed out, or simply because different communities gravitate toward different sports? He argues that this is the kind of honest inquiry we should bring to every DI discussion. Not every disparity stems from discrimination. Many differences arise from personal interests, cultural factors, and individual preferences rather than systemic barriers. Yet this nuance is often overlooked or avoided by DI proponents. And as Maher starts peeling back these layers, it becomes clear he's just getting warmed up. Buckle up, his critique is about to go much deeper.
I've heard the same story. You would understand this better than anybody because you're a sports genius. Baseball. I've heard there's only 7% players in baseball who are African American.
That's right, about 7%.
Well, this would be a problem of baseball, as they were before 1947. There's only 7% because they want to play another sport or no sport at all or do something else. They're not barred. It's not a problem.
It's not a problem, but what they're trying to do on the right, and I've been getting on them about this, is that, again, when you're talking about DEI, anytime you bring that up, oh, you're a DEI hire. You didn't really deserve it. You didn't really earn it. You just got it because of that policy. And I'm like, but you just going to bring that up but ignore why the policy was there to begin with. That means there was a whole bunch of white people before there was DEI that were getting jobs that they didn't deserve.
I know, but there was, I think, the University of Michigan, one of the schools like that, had something like 200 DEI officers at a college, the most liberal place.
Yeah, that's excessive. No excuse.
Okay, and who's ever going to give up that job and go, well, this situation is better now, I guess I better fire me?
Roles built around DI frameworks rarely fade away just because conditions improv. There are built-in incentive for them to persist. Critics argue that, in some cases, hiring standards have shifted to prioritize policy objectives over traditional qualifications. DI may have been created to solve real problems and promote fairness, but somewhere along the line, the mission drifted. The structure opened the door to loopholes that could be used strategically rather than in pursuit of genuine solutions. And once a system evolves that way, acknowledging its shortcomings, let alone fixing them, becomes increasingly difficult.
I'm just saying if you want to do away with it, do away with it. Just don't act like, don't forget what brought it about.
Right.
That's all.
And it's where people look for talent. If you look at these tech companies, they go to Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley. You think they're going to the HBCUs and looking for talent there? If they're not pushed to go outside their networks, they're going to hire the same people from the same schools and replicate the same wealth gap. We've got a 10-to-1 wealth gap in America. And instead of talking about that, we're beating up on DEI.
But we had this in your industry, or the way you represent, women were like, they started two programs, big programs, like 20 years ago to get more women in engineering positions. And I think in 20 years it went up 1%. I don't think it's because they were barred from doing it. I just think people choose to go into different avenues of...
Maher returns to his central point and illustrates it with a straightforward example. Not every field attracts the same level of interest. Some careers naturally draw more people than others, and differences in representation don't automatically imply discrimination. Data from multiple countries shows similar trends. When people have freedom and equal opportunity, many gravitate toward education, healthcare, communication, and other people-focused fields more often than highly technical or physically demanding ones. Maher's argument is that recognizing this reality matters, because not every statistical imbalance is evidence of oppression. Sometimes disparities simply reflect what people genuinely prefer.
There's the studies show that African-American young men and women are more interested in tech than even white kids, but they don't have the same pathways. We are denying reality if we think
so you're
that someone
saying
young...
they're being
I'm not saying
denied.
that. I'm saying if you graduate from Stanford, I taught at Stanford, you get funded before you have an idea. You literally just email a venture capitalist, you get funded. If you're at Morehouse or you're at Spelman or you're at Claflin University, you think you could just email someone at Kleiner Perkins and get your company funded? No.
I think companies that want to make money hire the best people to make it for them.
Exactly. At the end of the day, major companies ultimately prioritize one thing: profit. They're not operating as charities or social engineering projects. They want top talent because talent drives innovation, growth, and revenue. It's that simple. So when young people set their sights on landing jobs at these big corporations, the path is clear: build the qualifications that make you a strong candidate. For many, that means aiming for competitive universities, often the Ivy League, where academic rigor, professional networks, and institutional prestige open doors. And it's not as though these schools admit students solely based on identity or financial background. Privilege can help, admissions aren't perfect, but the vast majority of students get in because they show outstanding ability, discipline, and potential. Companies understand this, which is why they recruit heavily from those institutions. If young people want to compete for those opportunities, they need to invest in merit, preparation, and excellence, not shortcuts or narratives that sidestep the real work required to succeed.
I don't disagree with you. I just think that we have to keep a watchful eye on things. Of course, for example, with the eradication of a lot of these DEI programs, right? Let's say, for example, hypothetically, there's 20 jobs that are available, and DEI has been shoved aside. Now, when you fulfill those 20, when you fill up those 20 jobs, and all of them are white, you got a problem. Because what you're saying is, oh, they're the ones that are qualified and nobody else is. Yep. And that's a system that used to exist in this country that you see a lot of people clamoring to return to. Well, and we can't ignore that.
Those 20 jobs would not go to white people. They go to Asian people.
Okay.
Stephen A. Point starts to fall apart here. In most workplaces, high performers rise because of reliability, consistency, and strong results, not favoritism. Across industries, employers notice who shows up prepared, stays focused, and consistently delivers. That builds trust, and in competitive environments, trust is invaluable. Many families and communities place a strong emphasis on education, discipline, and long-term preparation from an early age, and those habits often translate directly into career success. So when Stephen A. frames hiring patterns as primarily the product of bias or systemic favoritism, it overlooks the reality that many people advance because they consistently outperform those around them. Companies reward results, not rhetoric. And in any results-driven marketplace, a strong work ethic will always be in demand.
Just not blacks.
Well, I really, I mean, this is
And
one of the
Asian Americans wouldn't even be in this country if it weren't for the civil rights movement and the African American community.
But we're talking.
Well, if you're going to bring that up, bring up the fact that whether it's affirmative action or DEI, the biggest beneficiaries of both programs were white women.
I know,
Let's not forget that.
But can we live in the era we're living in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it's 2025. I mean, this is one of the most liberal parts of the country that you represent.
Yes.
So you're saying in one of the most liberal parts, maybe you're right. I don't know. I'm just questioning it. That there is this prejudice against.
I don't think it's formal. I don't think people there at Apple or Google are saying, oh, let's not hire black people. I think it's easy when you're building a company to just hire the people you know, the schools you know, and it takes extra effort to reach out beyond your networks. We all have that.
What this politician overlooks is a simple reality. Top companies recruit heavily from Ivy League universities because those schools attract applicants with strong academic records and proven capabilities. It isn't discrimination, it's efficiency. Major firms don't want to sift through thousands of unfocused applications when they can target talent pools already tested in demanding academic environments. It's basic economics. When you're searching for the strongest candidates, you start where standards are highest and competition is toughest. And this logic applies to everyday life. As consumers, we gravitate toward products and brands with a reputation for quality. We don't shop at random, we choose what we trust. Companies looking for top talent operate the same way. When millions of dollars, competitive markets, and long-term strategy are on the line, they prioritize applicants from places with established track records of preparation and performance. Pretending this is unfair or malicious ignores how merit, readiness, and real-world results actually shape outcomes.
If you're part of today's woke revolution, you need to study the part of revolutions where they spin out of control because the revolutionaries get so drunk on their own purifying elixir, they imagine they can reinvent the very nature of human beings. Communists thought selfishness could be cast out of human nature. Russian revolutionaries spoke of the new Soviet man who wasn't motivated by self-interest, but instead wanted to be part of a collective. No, it turns out he wanted to be on a yacht in a Gucci tracksuit holding a vodka and a prostitute.
This may be an old clip, but it fits seamlessly into today's debate. As with some elements of the modern DI movement, many activists once believed that policy alone could override long-standing cultural preferences and individual choices. Reality didn't cooperate. Yes, discrimination still exists, and yes, there are situations where people are unfairly denied opportunities. Those issues are real and deserve meaningful attention. But the answer isn't to reverse the imbalance by assigning roles based on categories instead of qualifications. That doesn't fix injustice. It simply creates new versions of it. Competence, skill, and preparation will always matter, no matter how much symbolic language is attached to the process. If the goal is genuine fairness, replacing merit with quotas doesn't move society forward. It only breeds more resentment, deeper division, and less trust in the systems meant to serve everyone.
The problem with communism, and with some very recent ideologies here at home, is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it, that you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference between reality and your mommy. Lincoln once said that you can repeal all past history, but you still cannot repeal human nature. But he's canceled now, so fuck him.
True DI defenders can argue as loudly as they want, but they still can't escape an inconvenient truth. People naturally gravitate toward jobs, sports, and lifestyles that match their interests, not what policymakers or activists think they should want. You can open the door to all kinds of opportunities, but if those roles don't align with someone's strengths or passions, they simply won't pursue them. That isn't discrimination, it's human nature. In sports, for instance, different communities show different participation patterns. Some groups have historically favored basketball over baseball, not because they were pushed out, but because interests evolve differently across cultures. The same idea applies to careers. Personal interests, cultural influences, upbringing, and community expectations all shape the paths people choose. Yet DI advocates often argue that every disparity reflects discrimination. But ignoring personal preference means ignoring reality. No field will ever have perfectly equal representation, and trying to force it doesn't create fairness, it creates frustration, lower standards, and less trust. That's simply how life works, whether DI supporters acknowledge it or not. Listen to this story.
Listen to this story. There's a law professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, named Jason Kilborn, whose crime was that on one of his exams, he used a hypothetical case where a black female worker sued her employer for race and gender discrimination, alleging that managers had called her two slur words, the type of real-world case these students might one day confront. And knowing the extreme sensitivity of today's students, he didn't write the two taboo words on the test, just the first letter of each. He was teaching his students how to fight racism in the place where it matters most, the criminal justice system. But because he merely alluded to those words, again, in the service of a good cause, he was banned from campus, placed on indefinite leave, and made to wear the dunce cap.
At the end of the day, the DI debate is often less about fairness and more about understanding human nature and personal choice. You can't manufacture passions, interests, or talents. People pursue what excites them and aligns with their abilities, no matter who's offering the job. This helps explain the patterns we see in sports, careers, and education. In athletics, for instance, different communities have historically gravitated towards certain sports not because they were pushed away from others, but because interests developed organically. The same holds true for careers. Cultural background, personal preference, upbringing, and environment all play major roles in shaping the paths people choose. Assigning roles based purely on identity might improve optics, but it doesn't change those deeper factors. Companies hire the talent they believe will help them succeed. Schools admit students who show strong preparation and potential. And individuals choose fields that match their skills and goals. Recognizing this isn't discriminatory, yet realistic. Real equity comes from expanding opportunity and strengthening preparation, not from rigid quotas or forced outcomes. The sooner we acknowledge that, the more honest and productive our conversations about DI can become. And with that, we'll wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.